Hello and welcome back to Study History of Mr P and my fourth revision video on the Whitechapel study crime policing and the inner city, in which I look at police organisation in Whitechapel. So the Metropolitan Police was split up into 20 divisions. Each one was responsible for a different area of London. Whitechapel was covered by H Division. There was a superintendent and chief inspector, 27 inspectors and 37 sergeants. There were around 500 constables, one for every 300 people. But this was not enough given the difficulties that Whitechapel faced. There were also 15 detectives. Now, a beat constable shift was involved the following: marching out into Whitechapel and then starting work when he reached the area he was to patrol. At night, stopping and questioning people about why they were out, meeting up with the beat sergeant to discuss what happened and writing this down in his diary. A constable could be fined or dismissed if they were found away from their beat without good reason. The work was boring and sometimes dangerous, and the quality of recruits was variable because pay was not great. However, in general, over time, the Metropolitan Police have become increasingly seen as a respectable and reliable group, but in districts like Whitechapel, they were seen more negatively. Attacks by gangs were common, and economic discontent and the use of the police to deal with it was the main reason for unpopularity. So policing in Whitechapel itself was difficult because Whitechapel was seen as a breeding ground for a whole range of crimes. Many crimes were directly linked to the higher levels of poverty and unemployment. People would rather commit crime than starve or go to the workhouse. On top of this, the narrow streets and alleyways of the rookeries allowed criminals to operate and hide from the law. People moving through the area were attracted to the cheap lodging houses, but the cheap accommodation also attracted rougher types such as criminals, drunkards and prostitutes. The cramped conditions in these made for more tensions and more opportunities for petty crime, and tension between different nationalities made this even worse. Prostitution was rife in Whitechapel. It was very hard for women to find work, and so many became prostitutes. This was not illegal, but it was seen as a social problem. Prostitution in turn made women more vulnerable to attack. There were an estimated 1,200 prostitutes in Whitechapel. Alcohol caused many problems too. For many, it was the only escape that they had from their terrible lives. Many therefore became helpless alcoholics. Drunkenness often turned to violence, and alcoholics could turn to crime to get the money to buy their next drink. Alcohol was cheap, and there were a high number of pubs and gin palaces in Whitechapel. Protection rackets also existed, including gangs such as the Bessarabian Tigers and the Odessians, both made up of immigrants from Eastern Europe. They demanded protection money from small businesses. Ordinary people were too afraid to report them. The police were too overstretched and understaffed to shut down criminal activities in some parts of Whitechapel. Immigration just added to the issues presented to the police. This included anti-Semitic attacks, but Jewish immigrants were often unwilling or, due to language barriers, unable to report this. The police in the Whitechapel community, and the constables in particular, were seen as a kind of social worker. Police work came to involve dealing with lunatics, vagrancy, pubs, street traffic, sewage, litter, coinage, children and more. Some of these social work tasks brought the police into conflict with Whitechapel residents. For example, when they acted as poor relief officers or when they tried to control prostitution. They did also provide help, such as when they ran soup kitchens. They were seen as necessary, but with the wrong methods and priorities.